All right, Simon from Brighton, England, Jason from somewhere in Connecticut. I actually don't think you've ever told me the city you live in. Welcome back for the Sundaypuncher podcast. Now, I just wanted to do something because I mentioned last week that I think I'm the last guy that still has a Shots app installed on their phone. So I'm going to install it live,
Uninstall it.
uninstall it. So, Shots, you are gone from my phone. I've deleted you now. So, all right, one less person has Shots installed on their phone.
Now they're
Simon.
at 0 users.
So Simon, Simon, last week, the week before that, and I think the week before that too, you've been critical of Freddie Roach in some way, shape, or form. So I wanted to really open this and give you the floor, give you the opportunity to say what you got to say and do what you got to do about Freddie Roach. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, it's the same thing we've seen time after time, isn't it? It almost gets boring saying it because it's so formulaic of there's a plan A, and if plan A doesn't cut it, game over. And then he'll just, grudgingly stick to plan A until its bitter end when you lose by a shutout. And you've seen it with not one, but a multitude, and it's not even just recent Roach. This is, there's a James Toney fight from 2003, that sort of era, where he's in the 12th round and he's urging him come on, you got to knock him out. We've let the last rounds slip away from us. We're behind. And we just see it time after time where it just falls into this trap. It's infuriating to see.
Yeah, infuriating because prior to this fight, you knew that Pacquiao had at least the raw physical attributes and talents that he might have had. It might have been the perfect combination to do something with Floyd. Now, I don't want to take anything away from Floyd, though, because what Floyd Mayweather did last night was pretty astonishing. We've never seen somebody take Manny Pacquiao completely out of his game and almost confuse him and frustrate him the way he did. But I don't know. There was something that just I just said that Floyd, what he did was, exactly. He took Pacquiao out of his game, but that was strange to see Pacquiao look like that because we never see that.
Yeah, on one hand, you have this idea, which is kind of how I initially left the fight, was that Floyd was able to make Manny look pedestrian, right? He was able to show how far above Manny he was. And at the same time, like you just touched upon, Angelo, it was difficult to watch Manny fight like that because you know that he's got more. So it was, you got to give Floyd a tremendous amount of credit for being able to do what he did to Manny Pacquiao, because as Chris Algieri says, Manny Pacquiao is the best at being Manny Pacquiao. He did not look like Manny Pacquiao last night.
He's a philosopher.
And it's the difficult one it conjures up because there's immediately people are saying about a shoulder injury for Pacquiao, and that's why he didn't look on his game. I don't know how much stock to put in that, though, because we've seen a lot of times Mayweather makes people look like they're not on their A game, and it's just what he does, taking away what you've got. So what are your thoughts on the injury?
Well, here's the thing. The much lesser fighters have troubled Floyd more. Wouldn't you agree to that sentiment?
That's a good point. I agree. That's a really good point.
So
I was getting ready to defend Manny too, but
it makes me think. Much lesser of fighters have been able to trouble Floyd, and so it makes me think what was going on with Manny. He should have been able to do something. I don't know if I want to get too deep into scorecard talk. I may have been overly critical, but I had one definitive round that I gave to Manny, and that was round 4. Outside of that, I could see maybe another round going to him towards the end of the fight. So personally, on my card, he won one round and then had a swing round, which is basically the opposite of what I figured would happen. Floyd sweeping the beginning of the fight was so astonishing to me that I knew it was over. You could almost tell the fight was over in the first minute when Floyd was already landing and just looked completely comfortable rather than his normal, let me figure you out. He started at round 1 how he normally starts in round 4 in fights. He was totally on point.
Do you think Floyd was trying to get a stoppage or was fighting in a way that he was trying to create one? Because I felt that he was he was loading up a lot more big shots. You know, he was playing possum in the corner and trying to get the check left like he did against Hatton, and he was trying to like draw him in for the counter straight. And you know, there were lots of things that he was doing that were sort of textbook. I'm going to knock you out with this, but you know, he didn't manage to land any of them. But it did look like he was going aggressive, like he wanted to make a statement.
I completely agree with that. That Floyd was definitely trying to knock Pacquiao out. I even said it out loud, you know, in part with my viewing party, all the people who were there. Floyd's going full Bradley right now, and I don't think this is a good idea. Now,
Mm,
hindsight's 2020, and it was the perfect idea because it was the perfect adjustment that he needed to make to keep Manny from getting comfortable. But at the
mm,
same time, Floyd was doing like damage. I thought in the first round, and I think it was the first round though, Floyd threw this hook to the body that was just filthy. And I was like, oh, Floyd is not playing around today. He's not gonna. I mean, he's gonna do his boxing, but he's actually loading up on punches where he normally doesn't.
Well, that's
mm.
what I'm saying. He started off in the first round in this like completely confident in just really going out to get Manny, and I really didn't expect that. It was kind of counter to what I had been expecting, and it really set those first 3 rounds set the entire tone for the rest of the fight.
Mm. I think you said the fourth you had for Manny, and I think that one's difficult to argue otherwise. Um,
Right.
I think
Outside of that, you could argue any
well,
other round.
the
I
12th I
feel.
put in that camp as well, just because I hate when someone declares themselves the winner a few seconds into the last round
But
and
he
then
was the winner
how,
of that round, I
yeah,
think.
I'm sure, but he
Yeah.
had his hands up and was like celebrating and things rather than looking to do anything at that point. So
Yeah, but
I
he took
couldn't.
the round though. Manny didn't do any. He didn't get anything that was effective at all. So that was something that was interesting with my viewing party. Is I kept having people say, "Oh man, look, look how aggressive Manny's being. He must be winning this round, right?" And it's like, no, guys, nope. That he
So
still has to be able to land the punches.
is
He
it
could be
effective aggression?
right. He could be as ineffectively aggressive as he wants.
Mm,
He's not going to win a round. And, so it was very interesting to see from that standpoint for somebody who doesn't necessarily, judge every boxing match they watch, to see kind of what their perspective on it was. So I was kind of wondering, I had a good feeling that the judges wouldn't be swayed by it because we had some good judges. So I was glad that they weren't in the end.
judges, excellent job as well to not let the occasion get to them because
Exactly.
on my first time of scoring, I was scoring it at like 5 in the morning, with
How
a
many beers
house,
in?
a
Yeah. How
fair
many
few beers
drinks?
in, with a house full of Pacquiao fans. And the other thing is, in the stadium, Pacquiao could hit air and the stadium would explode. You know, it was
Yeah.
really
Oh, yeah.
difficult to get any sort of feed off it. So the first time scoring it through, I had Manny taking it like narrowly. The
Oh,
scores didn't shock me. I
Simon.
thought I must have got this wrong. So anyway, I've
Yeah.
rewatched it today, and it's just like, oh my god, it's like night and day difference. But
Yeah.
it shows how difficult it is to be a judge because I had the benefit of being able to watch it and score it multiple times and revisit it and compare notes. But if you think, you know, the judges get one shot to do it, they're there live in the environment, they've got the crowd to distract them, they've got the event, you know, the magnitude of the event to distract them. It's a tough job.
Yeah. I
One
mean,
thing
the
I wanted
pressure
to,
was unbelievable.
yeah, that I even felt that pressure too. I'm scoring it at home and putting it online for everyone to see, and I'm being as generous as I can be to Pacquiao because I in the
I
back of my
noticed.
head I know that I will get killed if my scorecard is off base, and I felt like I had a really good scorecard. I think there were two clear Pacquiao rounds. There were the fourth and sixth round. I'm not willing to let Mayweather have those rounds. And if you didn't give them to Pacquiao, I think uh, we need to sit down and talk about scoring. And then the 10th round was a swing round that I thought Manny edged out based off of activity. But anyway, Floyd surprisingly threw more punches and landed more punches.
Mm.
And it's just bizarre. Like, I still can't, I'm just in disbelief at that. Like, how does that happen to Manny Pacquiao?
One of the
It's like the
most
legend is falling apart before my eyes.
Yeah, one of the most interesting things was I think it was maybe they showed the punch stats for the first time. So just put the little asterisk in there. Obviously, punch stats aren't perfect. Blah blah blah. We know this, but they're an interesting thing to look at. Um,
Mm.
by the fourth round, I think they had put the punch stats up, somewhere in the middle of the fourth round, and that had obviously been 3 shutout rounds for Floyd previous to that. and you saw like Manny was like landing 3 to 5 punches around, and it was mind-boggling that that is how this fight would open.
Yeah, it was an odd one as well because if someone had said before going in that Mayweather was going to outwork him, you would
Ugh.
probably have had a tough time believing it.
I would have told them that Mayweather will not outwork him, but he will outland
Out,
him at a
yeah.
higher connect percentage. But Jesus, that was just ridiculous. Now, I wanted to say one thing about Floyd's ring IQ, just so we can transition off of all the scoring topics or scoring discussion. Floyd's ring IQ is, legendary. We know that he's a really smart fighter and he does what he needs to do. But there was one thing I noticed last night that I've never noticed in his fights before, and it was really clear though. So Floyd, he's not a positive guy. You can tell that he doesn't have this mindset where he's positive and he thinks that if he gets hit a couple of times early in the round, that he can come back, even if it's the last minute of the round, and steal a round or hurt the guy. Mayweather takes like a really realistic view when he fights, and now if I look back, I can see it all over the place. In those 2 rounds that he lost, I think Mayweather screwed up at some point in the round and realized he had lost at least a minute into the round. And rather than wasting any more effort and trying to take the round back or do anything extravagant, he just conceded and lost the round. He just gave it up. And that kind of hard look at the fight is what enabled him to really win this fight. And, every time Pacquiao won a round, he never won 2 in a row. Mayweather came back and really put a stamp on the next round saying, what you got in that round was because I gave it to you.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm torn on whether I want to accredit that to a technical, like conservative and realistic approach, or whether it's more out of like being a bit childish almost. That where he's like, well, what's the point? Not, I'm not going to try anymore in this round. It's already done. Bring me the next round. And whether it's out of a kind of like almost bratish.
It's probably that too. I mean, would you put it past him?
No, not at all.
No,
It
but
actually seems right up his alley.
yeah, but more up his alley would be an intelligent approach to winning a round, more than being childish, in my opinion.
Hmm.
What if, I know we've already talked about this a little bit, but Pacquiao's game plan was terrible, right?
What
It was
game
the
plan?
exact
plan?
What game plan?
It was a combination of Canelo, Maidana, Guerrero, basically every guy who's failed to
Yeah, it,
win more than 4 rounds against Floyd. It was the same game plan,
it was the combination of their least effective points.
which is and they're also the points that look good when you watch them. Like, okay, pressure Floyd, get him to the ropes, unleash the combinations. But we've seen it happen so many times before where that just doesn't work. And I don't know why there was no adjustment at all. Not even in the 10th, 11th, and 12th. There was no urgency in Pacquiao's fighting. No attempt to just sell out. Nothing.
Well, he thought he was winning the fight, you know?
And
He thought he won the
Fred,
fight. You
Fred
heard
is
Really?
the,
telling him the same in between
you
rounds.
heard the post-fight interview. He said the first words out of his mouth were, "I thought I won the fight." Him and Chavez Jr. need to form a
Well, I
support
was,
group together.
I was gonna say, I just ignored that because Chavez Jr. said it recently, and what am I?
All you have to say is he was the better man tonight. That's all you have to say. Don't tell me you thought you won that fight. It was so disingenuous, and I couldn't stand hearing him say that. It was so frustrating as a fan to listen to him have to say that.
You
Do you
know,
know why he says that? He's saying that because Freddie Roach is his idol, and Freddie's telling him, "You're winning this."
I couldn't hear anything. So was that really happening in the corners? Was Freddie Roach actually telling Pacquiao he was ahead? I haven't
I don't know.
rewatched it
I
either.
couldn't get any corner. I didn't hear any corner talk either. Was it,
Fred,
Simon?
It's all on
Freddie,
you, Simon.
no, there's nothing heard or confirmed. I don't want to get called out, but
You can
Freddie's
imagine.
Freddie's often telling them this is exactly correct. This is exactly where we want it to be.
Keep doing what you're
Where
doing.
have we heard that before?
Right.
Where have we heard that before?
Yeah. So I think if Pacquiao thinks he won, it's because Freddie's told him he's winning, and Pacquiao trusts what he says.
Everybody, that was at my house, and again, not boxing fans by any stretch. By the time the 11th round came up, they said they were like, okay, well, Manny has to knock him out. And I said, yeah, absolutely. They're like, okay, so what are we going to see? What's he going to do to try to do it? And I'm like, I gave him some bullet points as far as what I thought he would need to do.
Cut off the
And then
ring.
I and then I told them but don't necessarily expect that to happen. And they were just in disbelief that he fought, rounds 1, 2, and 3 the same that he fought, 11 and 12. Because you knew at that point he needed a knockout, but he did nothing to try to be more aggressive.
If you guys were going to put on your conspiracy theorist hats for a second, answer that question. Why didn't he try to go for the knockout? And just because he thinks he was winning the fight, that can't be the answer there.
The only thing
This guy
that I
has
get,
unless hold on, sorry for interrupting you, Jason,
no,
but
it's fine. Go
unless
ahead.
Pacquiao is a terrible judge of fights, because we've seen him in it would make sense if he's a terrible judge of fights. It would explain how many and why he's had so many really close fights, including getting robbed by Timothy Bradley. That might make sense.
That might make sense, but I think it could also just be that he was afraid of getting knocked out. He knew Floyd every time he opened up. He knew Floyd could touch him, and maybe he's just like, you know what? I'm not getting Marquez again. I'm not letting that happen. It's more important for me to not, end this fight on my face than it is to try to knock him out. And maybe it was just, that fear of he got a little gun shy and not wanting to get stretched out again.
Well, Floyd was definitely gunning for it. There were
Don't
times
back
when
me up
you
all at
saw
once.
him throw that straight right hand as Pacquiao would come in, and he missed it almost every single time. But the fact that he was throwing that shot, which he normally doesn't throw when an opponent jumps in on him, usually he jumps backwards. And then that check hook that Simon mentioned earlier. I mean, Floyd. The times when Manny got Floyd in the corner wasn't because Manny was cutting off the ring. It was because Floyd was
Yeah.
backing directly into
Right.
it,
It's
so he
because
could.
There
Floyd
was
walked there.
there was a point where Floyd was in the corner and people were starting to get loud, like now he's got him where he wants to be, and I was like, it's a trap. Like there's no way. This is
He's
exactly
about to get
designed for.
hatted.
Yeah, exactly. And he did. The exact shot played out. Pacquiao lunged in, Mayweather's check left out the way, and Pacquiao went into the corner. It's just the punch didn't connect. But it was like text. I'd love to see someone do a little comparison shot of that because they were almost identical, just with the exception of the shot not connecting.
Were you guys surprised by the fact that Floyd was just as fast, if not faster, than Manny?
I was
Um,
personally. I was surprised. I thought that Pacquiao would have the clear advantage in speed.
I
It
agree.
wouldn't be supreme, but he would if you had to break down their stats before the fight, you gave the edge in speed to Pacquiao. That was pretty common. So to see how that played out, pretty interesting. I know,
I
Simon, you probably want to get a word in, but I just want to make sure we round back to Floyd not getting on the unofficial scale after we do this.
Sure enough, or sure thing, we will do that. But Simon, go ahead.
and then you throw me off track there.
I'm
We
sorry,
were talking
the
about
speed.
the
Yeah.
speed,
Yeah, this is it.
not the drug.
I think that no, I think Pacquiao didn't look at his fastest, and I think that it goes back to in order for Pacquiao to utilize his speed to the fullest, he needs
Needs
an
to fight a
opponent
slower
that's going to
guy.
allow him to.
So you mean a guy who's slower than him?
No, I don't, no, not slower, but I think that he couldn't utilize the full extent of his speed because Mayweather was making him think about things and making him have to construct actual sensible approaches. So if there's someone whose defenses are poor, Pacquiao doesn't have to think about his approach because he can just sort of tee off at will, and that's where he lets his hands go, and you see that sort of blazing speed. But because Mayweather's defenses are so high, you can't just tee off and expect it to go okay for him. He has to be thoughtful about it, and as a result, he appears slower, making Mayweather, in comparison, feel as fast, if not faster. But in reality, it's not because of a blazing speed from Mayweather, as I'd call it. I'd say that he stopped Pacquiao utilizing the speed.
You know what,
That's a
Simon?
good
I
point.
couldn't agree more with that. That was a fantastic analysis. And, you're absolutely right. Manny takes people's defensive lapses and he exploits them via his speed. Mayweather doesn't have defensive lapses. So it just isn't there to be utilized.
Mm.
Do you guys think that Manny's game plan? I mean, we said it was the same as Canelo's, but I mean, we're just teasing. It really wasn't. But do you think his what am I trying to say here?
It's tough to formulate what you're trying to say because he didn't have a game plan.
Do you think? Do you guys think that Manny's game plan was just terribly flawed? Like, I don't really understand what he was trying to do. He tried to be Manny Pacquiao, but there was no real like. I didn't see him show off anything that we haven't seen him do before.
Well, I guess the question is then, right, what could he have done differently?
Yeah, so I saw someone made the
Taking a
comment
bat.
that someone said that Mayweather has hacked boxing, and he just has exploited it to the extreme that he's untouchable now. So putting it into like game theory and thinking like video game style,
Mm,
he's just found all of the best ways to min max and is
right.
just utilizing that and can't be touched.
So, I've mostly played Grand Theft Auto. So, can you put this in GTA terms?
Ooh, it's tough.
Not especially because GTA
Yeah,
doesn't have especially that
it's
comparison,
not
but
stat based.
it's things like if there was anything you were able to cheese to get an advantage, and by cheese we mean do the same thing over again and exploit what people would consider to be cheap tactics, but you know what? It's in the game and it works. So if Floyd were playing a video game, he'd be the person that's using noob tubes, that's camping, that's doing all the things that people complain about. And
Right.
fair enough, complain about it, but he did win. The scoreboard says he's winning, and it can
Now,
be frustrating. But
But Floyd, I mean, that's all fine, but and you can criticize Floyd for using those tactics all you want because he does do that. But how do you explain Floyd beating Pacquiao in the center of the ring? How do you explain Floyd outworking Pacquiao? I don't understand that.
Well, I mean, Floyd beating him in the center of the ring, I don't think is necessarily, too strange. Manny should have been beating him up against the ropes, I suppose. You know what I mean?
Like
Floyd was
Canelo
always
did.
gonna Floyd was always gonna keep him at the end of his jab and, keep him on the outside and just hit him with leads and straights.
mm,
So I don't think that was too exceptional. But it's just perplexing. It didn't look like Manny Pacquiao, and you have to attribute that mostly to Floyd.
mm,
Yeah, as someone who's liked Manny Pacquiao for his whole career, and all of us, I think we can say that. I mean, I don't think there's anybody listening that's ever not liked or enjoyed Manny Pacquiao. It was just really strange to watch that fight last night, even more so than the
mm.
Marquez fight, because
Yeah,
when he got knocked out, because it's like, okay, he was on his way to stopping Marquez. They were both getting as good as they were taking, but this time, like Manny did not look like Manny.
yeah. It was
Well,
such a
you know
different
what?
performance.
I take that back. Manny looked like Manny, but it was the first time we had seen Manny not be able to be effective at being and doing what he normally does, which is use that
Mm.
left hand and blitz.
Right.
Yeah, I think the best way to put it is that Manny looked every bit of himself, but it's the first time that every bit of himself wasn't enough.
Yeah, well said. Let's jump off of this and talk about our TV coverage. We got the HBO Showtime pay-per-view. Simon, you got Sky Box Office. And so this is the benefit of having Simon on the podcast, other than his eloquent rephrasing of the things that I already said.
Just pirating your points and repackaging them in an accent.
He's
In a
pretty
much
good
better
at
way.
It's been going strong for me.
condensing them.
But I wanted to know, you watched the British version. You got Carl Froch, you got Amir Khan on the commentary and all that stuff. So tell us about it. How was Jim Watt's commentary? Did Nick Helling or Haling do a really good job commentating the fight and doing the blow by blow? Give us a review.
So, in terms of, I love the Sky team, as you know. There's lots of split opinions about them. So, I'm just grabbing my
Basically, the
phone.
split is people like Nick and don't like Jim Watt.
Yeah. So, this is text from my dad about Jim earlier. Hated Jim, C word, Scotsman. Thought Manny did his best but couldn't get past the defences. Thought it was Manny chasing and Floyd running with his arm stuck out. And then he said, he said, Jim said that Manny didn't have any passion. What a wanker. So he's not a fan of Jim Watt and never has been. So yeah, I even thought that the commentary was a touch pro Mayweather this evening, or yesterday evening, I should say. I'm not usually bothered, and I'm not bothered now even. But it was a very apparent that even in the fourth, when he had all that success, Pacquiao, his limited pocket of success, Sky didn't want to give him it.
Maybe because they're still bitter over Ricky Hatton.
Yeah, perhaps. Froch backpedaled hard. So before the fight, he said Pacquiao, and he couldn't see how Pacquiao wouldn't win this. And by about round
Typical.
two, early on in an early round, they cut to him for some commentary, and he was like, "Oh, you know what? I've never seen Floyd fight live, but sitting here and watching him work, it's very obvious why he's unbeaten and why he's the best." So he had an epiphany there.
You mean he
And
didn't have the epiphany after he got shut out and beat up by an undefeated defensive fighter in Andre Ward?
no, I think he they would have had eye contact there for the first time in a while, wouldn't they? So the Sky's coverage was really good. It stayed up consistently. There were no problems I know that a lot of American providers had some issues with maintaining stability. Sky seemed fine throughout the whole night. Commentary, take it with a pinch of salt, because at the end of the day, you're not going to agree with everything someone says. They're not judging the fight. They're just there to add colour to it, or whatever they say, just try and let it roll over you, ultimately. But yeah, no, it was well put together, I think.
Jason, you have a lot to say to Comcast, so why don't you go ahead?
Oh man, it was such a disaster. So I ordered the fight around 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, giving myself plenty of time to prepare.
It's daylight time now.
Huh? Anyways, uh, around 5 o'clock daylight time. He The broadcast was slated to begin at 6. By broadcast, I just mean basically they show 3 hours of like hype stuff, and then it started at 9.
Yeah.
But I ordered it, plenty of time to just get everything going. So I order it. It starts recording, like my little record light comes on, and I go to switch to the channel around, quarter after 6, and it just like it won't let me switch to the channel. I'll try to condense this. So I ended up calling Comcast. I was on the phone with them for 45 minutes on hold. Somebody picked up, told me they'd be able to help me, and then realized that I had a different cable box than they initially thought, transferred me to somebody else. Waited on hold for another 20 minutes. Talked to that guy for a while until he just basically told me, he's like, why don't you just wait till 9 o'clock when the broadcast starts, and if it's not working, give us a call back. I was like that's not
Thanks
really
for the vote
gonna,
of confidence there.
that's not really gonna be an option for me. I'm like, I'm having people over the house, so I, asked them. I worked in customer service for many years, so I asked them to speak with the supervisor, which is basically like the help me now, or I'm talking to your boss kind of thing. The guy that I was on the phone with, he goes, well, your TV's working now, right? I said, yeah, it's working. He goes, and that's why you called. I said, hold on. We both well know I did not call you because my television was not working. I called you because the pay-per-view is not working. And that's when I asked for a supervisor.
Jason was texting me too. He was freaking out.
Oh, I was freaking out. Because
Why
I
wouldn't
don't...
it be?
Yeah, well, I don't do streams. Like, I'm not too tech savvy. So, I was like, I got people coming over. I'm going to have to do a stream. I stream the UK fights, because I just can't access them any other way here. And, like, I only have the audio that comes out of my laptop and the video on the TV. So, like, I'm like, I got people coming over, and I'm going to, like, have laptop audio.
But porn pop-ups coming up every 5 seconds.
Left and right. Yeah, exactly. Do you need 8 more inches? So... I was just like losing my mind, and then when that guy told me I called him because my TV wasn't working, I lost my shit. And, like, my wife was like, your face just like turned beet red, and so just in the middle of him not being able to figure out what was wrong, it came on, and then I hung up on him.
Hmm.
So I have no idea exactly what happened, but there were a lot of users actually reporting the same issues with Comcast, and it had something to do with if you ordered it through your cable box rather than calling them, it just straight up did not work. Like you
Why
had
would you
to.
expect it to work? You can't just pay them the money and order the product and expect everything to go smoothly.
my
There's certain
my
rules and rigmaroles you have to go through.
my favorite comment was, "This is the hardest $100 I have ever tried to give Comcast." So
Anybody, really.
you know, it was frankly it was horrific. My friends showed up in the middle of the Lomachenko fight, so I just paused it for a minute just to greet them and get them to come in. I came back. My cable box was in the middle of rebooting. I missed the
No.
yeah. I missed 6 rounds of the Lomachenko fight. I didn't know how it ended because everybody was talking, so I couldn't hear commentary. So like I didn't know how the Lomachenko fight ended until 3 hours after the broadcast ended, and I could check
Mm.
everything out after everybody left. So that how it was an absolute nightmare from a
Same thing
technical
happened for me
standpoint.
though. I mean, not as bad as yours. I didn't miss any of it, but I got to the house. The pay per view had been paid for, the day before, um, and so the Clipper game and the versus the Spurs was on, and I tried to switch to that before this is an hour before the fight's gonna come on, and the cable box just immediately shuts itself off. The whole TV screen goes blank, and then everybody starts panicking in the house, trying to fix it. We're screaming. I think my dad was like literally screaming for my sister to come fix the cable box because she's knows how to fix it, I guess. And she was like, "I don't care about this. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here." Luckily, it
You're
came
like
on. So
smiling and being polite, like, "Oh, that's okay. You tried your best," and inside, just like, "Fix the thing."
actually, she got kicked out of the house.
I bet.
No, I'm kidding.
Disowned.
It ended up working though. It was all fine. And I thought HBO and Showtime did a really good job. I caught a few little jabs here and there. The most prominent one I think was Lampley's apology or whatever he said at the end of the fight about promoting Mayweather's next fight on his rival network. And then going
Oh,
back to they tried to promote Golovkin at some point during the fight or afterward.
Mhm.
Overall, though, I thought it was pretty good.
there was
I
one
thought
one beautiful. I'd say it was like Steve Farhood scored a 10-8 round against Harold Letterman early in the Mayweather Pacquiao broadcast when Harold Letterman I think scored round 2 for Pacquiao, and
yeah,
then Steve
yeah.
Farhood gave his score, and he had everything the first 3 rounds for Mayweather, and then he said judging is about judging what you see, not judging with your heart. Like he just put that in there, and it was a total just like smack of Harold Letterman.
It was true though because that second round was not a
It
Manny Pacquiao
it
round.
wasn't a Pacquiao round, and Farhood knew it, and he knew anybody who knew anything about boxing would support what he was about to say.
Mm.
I mean, after that point, Harold Letterman got his head screwed on right and scored only 2 rounds, which were the actual 2 Pacquiao rounds that there were for Mayweather, and gave all the rest of the swing rounds to Mayweather.
Maybe he heard what Steve Farhood said. I've been on record on the podcast.
He
Steve
most certainly
Farhood's
did.
my
I bet you they were
favorite.
sitting next to
Yeah,
each other.
yeah, Steve Farhood's my favorite announcer on U.S. soil, um, and
I don't know about
I'd
that.
love to hear him say that.
I don't know about that.
That's fine. Yeah, no, you don't have to know about it. I'm saying he's mine.
Well, Malinagi's a little better than him. I'm just saying. He
Okay.
kept it really real. Like if you watch that post fight thing that they did, Molinagi was going in on Pacquiao.
He always
What's
he's
Did
had
you
a thing
guys
what's
about
watch it?
new?
Pacquiao, hasn't he? No,
What's
I haven't
new?
seen it, but it's difficult for me to take Paulie seriously when he's against Pacquiao because
You
it's the
can't.
I love Paulie, but just on the topic of Pacquiao, feels like he's I don't know. There's some like serious grudge.
Yeah, he didn't get the fight. He didn't get the payday.
No, no, no. Come on, guys. It's really It's much simpler than that. Even though he was a rumored opponent for both Pacquiao and Mayweather at some point in their careers early on, like 2009, um, him and Humberto Soto for some reason. But Pacquiao's jealous, or no, not Pacquiao. Molinari's jealous because this flyweight comes up to junior welterweight and lightweight or whatever, and was able to still knock people out.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Simple as
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
How come this guy's knocking people out and I can't?
How come Manny had excessive
It's
acne on his back last night?
it's a shame
Did
that
he really?
Oh my God,
it's
yes.
No,
it's a
I'm being
shame.
serious. Is that true? Did he really
I
have? Are there pictures?
Simon, back me up. Did you see it? I saw it.
No, I didn't.
My wife from the other room just said she saw it.
I've seen lots of people commenting on it yet, but I'm yet to see any definitive pics.
They-
So this is actually a real thing. I haven't been on the computer since yesterday. Uh, so I don't know.
I noticed it watching.
Okay, so I'm looking
Okay,
it up right
moving
now.
on. Yeah, moving
We'll get back to
Have
this.
a
All
look,
right.
because
Actually,
I think it's kind of absurd because the like the 6 years of negotiations and drug testing being such a major thing. Do you think they'd be that fucking brazen to then breach drug testing policy deliberately now that we're here?
The drugs are always 3 steps ahead of the testing policy. It's irrelevant. I don't know that we even need to go down this road, but
yeah, I mean, we
that's
don't
my
need to go
stance
down
on
this
it.
road because then we're gonna have
Yeah.
to bring up the emails back in 2009 when during the original negotiation that said that were in confidence emails that Pacquiao's team requested what the penalty would be if he had tested positive and if they could keep it quiet and still go through with the fight if for some
Mm.
reason he just happened to test positive. But that's something completely
Yeah.
else.
Standard
And
protocol though for testing positive. The results aren't announced. It's
correct.
they're announced to the camps. That's standard. That's not anything
Yeah,
special for Pacquiao.
So what's next
it is a messy
for?
subject. You're right.
Yeah, I don't think we need to go too far into it.
Not today. Maybe we'll bookmark this one for
We could do an
future.
episode on it, I think. Would be fun.
Yeah.
But
We'll bring on an expert commentator in Paulie Malignaggi for that one.
yeah, he's got a great person in his camp that could help him.
So who's next for each guy? Who are we gonna see Mayweather fight? And these are the options, okay? It ain't much. Kell Brook, the current IBF welterweight champion, he could be next.
For either guy.
Keith Thurman, undefeated. He used to hit hard. Amir Khan, he's very fast. Miguel Cotto, he's very Miguel Cotto. And then the winner of Gennady Golovkin versus Willie Monroe Jr.
So Frank actually,
Which will be a tight one. So we'll have to wait for that to play out before we
Oh
put any
yeah, I
confidence
don't.
on who that might be.
I'm not comfortable suggesting a winner in that fight.
Exactly.
Um, I think from a legacy standpoint, the best thing that Mayweather could do is fight Cotto
Rematch
for the
Canelo.
middle fight Cotto for the middleweight championship. Have his last fight win him another lineal title in another weight division. I mean, from a legacy standpoint, come on. I don't know that he could do anything better than that.
How many weight classes would that put him at? Is that 7 at that point?
Yeah,
But as far as lineal championships go,
would
though,
be less.
it would be like
Yeah.
his fifth
Four,
lineal
fifth.
champion
Yeah.
So
or lineal title. I mean,
So I think obviously from a legacy standpoint, that would be the way to go. But I think he put himself through a rather grueling training camp. He's definitely feeling the effects of time. And he said it a bunch before the fight, which was kind of pre-fight hype stuff, but he's probably on his way out from boxing and maybe he doesn't want to have another extremely tough fight. And I could see him going an easy route as well.
What would an easy route look like?
Jesse
Frankie
Vargas.
He's not going to go that easy, is he? Come on. What's a realistic easy route?
Bradley
Khan.
Skeet.
Khan, yeah. I like Khan as that. Not in terms of his odds of winning, but I mean in terms of
Yoshihiro Kamigai.
I think
Robert
Khan's
Guerrero, too.
possible. With Khan, half the promotional work's done already.
Absolutely. And the other
Look,
half
nobody
would
wants
just
to
be
watch
Khan's
that
Twitter
fight.
feed.
Let's just be real with this. Nobody wants to watch that fight.
It's not going to matter, though. It's his last fight. People are going to watch it, Angelo. It doesn't matter who it is. You're going to watch Mayweather's last fight.
Mm.
I'm gonna watch it. I know that, but this is a podcast, so we're supposed to talk about things that are gonna be interesting. And a fight with Mayweather or a fight between Mayweather and Khan isn't interesting.
No, but it's kind of meta at that point where it's
Khan's
like there's
motives for posting on social media are interesting, though.
there's 2 rules to a Mayweather fight. Rule 1 is a massive amount of people watch it, and rule 2 is a massive amount of people complain it was boring and that they didn't know that was coming.
I was shocked. I thought that.
And the same people promised to never watch him again. I see the same people show up 6 months later to have the same complaint.
For Mayweather's next fight, I don't think it's going to be Cotto. The reason why is that he's going to fight Gil in June. That does not give the Cotto a good enough, a long enough time to train and get ready again for a September fight. We know Mayweather's not budging off of that September date.
No, he may
And
not budge,
weight
but there's
would this
nothing
be
to
at?
suggest that he wouldn't wait till next May.
Now he could wait so, and he would at that point he probably breaks Marciano's record, doesn't he? Or he at least ties it.
Yeah, why wouldn't you slip a September one in?
Maybe he does Maidana 3.
I
What's
think
the-
something interesting and new would be better. I'd rather see Thurman than Maidana 3, for example.
Marquez
Man,
2?
all these welterweights are like, my payday's slipping away. I've only got one last, there's only one last
Yeah.
payday, and then the welterweight division crumbles.
I mean, do you think the more interesting question, because I think it's really clear that none of these opponents are really appetizing. The real question though is can any of these guys even be competitive? And by competitive I mean you can win between 4 and 6 rounds.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, and the other real question is, or, not necessarily a question, but I'll be damned that I thought I would see Mayweather Pacquiao 2 in September. I swear to you I did. I really did. I didn't even think we'd have to have this conversation.
I told you guys that it wasn't happening because it was so impossible to negotiate this one single fight. You tell me they're going to be able to do this twice? No way.
They not just
not a
photocopy
chance.
the contracts and change the dates.
And
That
then
does
remove
sound
the horse and
plausible. All right, but the more interesting question is what's next for Pacquiao because I think he's got a lot of options now. I think a lot of pressure has also been taken off of Pacquiao and what he does in his future. Like he can go and literally fight anybody. He doesn't have to worry about his chance slipping away to fight Mayweather because it's already come and gone.
Yeah.
Now,
Pacquiao's...
I just want to say this first though, before you guys can say it. Terrence Crawford.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say Pacquiao's still got problems with Marquez that he needs to wrap up.
But Marquez is like 100 years old now.
He's got that fountain of youth.
Retired. I've seen a lot of people talking about Danny Garcia as well as an option.
Garcia is
Danny's a Heyman
more
guy.
likely to be a Mayweather option.
Well, this is it. I think that Danny Garcia makes loads of sense fighter to fighter, but will they not just want to do an HBO China job for him next time?
Right.
Likely, very
And
likely.
at
Very
which
likely.
point Garcia's off and probably Crawford's off. Is Crawford going to go
Crawford
fight in
shouldn't
China
do
on
that.
HBO?
He shouldn't go to China.
Well, it doesn't matter because Crawford will stop Pacquiao probably.
I hope so.
Outside of that, well, are there light welters that they'd put him with?
Chris Algieri.
Provodnikov, Ik Yang?
Ik Yang, Manny Pacquiao. Jesus, that would be... like, there would be a crater in the ground after that fight.
I mean, they're all
That
under
fight
Team
would be
Roach, so there wouldn't be
explosive.
any problems of one team having a great strategy.
They'll just trade left hands the entire fight, and whoever's left standing at the end, they get it.
Yeah, which is fan-friendly as hell, and Pacquiao could then say, see, it wasn't me that made that fight unenjoyable to the casual audience. Look at what a war I just put on.
With Ik Yang of all people. Do we want to waste Ik Yang on this, though? Like, Ik Yang should be top ranks ace in the hole.
Yeah, why not? Nah, forget long play.
Well, I mean, those are
Top rank
the...
needs to look the play with Manny's career ending soon.
But legit as well, in terms of boxers and their, you never know when your fighter's going to do a silly crime and go to prison for it or just make some ridiculous mistake. And Ik Yang, there must be an intelligence
good point.
now. Within promoters, there must be an intelligence now that, like, look, guys, don't think about 5-year plan with this guy because he is a wild, he's a live wire. Anything could happen with this guy.
So what you're suggesting is he needs to get Alvarado in the ring as soon as possible?
It's just use them now because I don't know how long we've got them.
I think the plan for Pacquiao at some point has to include Crawford, though.
Yeah.
There has to be that passing of the torch moment.
It's that pass exactly. That was one of the kind of criticisms of Mayweather Pacquiao. No matter who wins, the torch wasn't really getting passed,
Mm.
to the next generation. Whereas with
Well,
Crawford, you
somebody's torch
totally
went
get.
out.
Ooh, damn! Call the burn unit. Um, at least with Crawford, you get that passing of the torch moment, and it's too bad Mikey Garcia isn't in the mix. And who knows? Maybe a Mayweather payday is what gets him back in the, or excuse me, a Pacquiao payday is what gets him back in the ring.
But
Mm.
I think he's gonna leave Top Rank.
Oh, was he suing Bob Arum
He was
last week?
part of the lawsuit. He was
Right.
part. I don't know.
Okay.
Let's.
With
There
Crawford,
was
though,
a
makes me
little bit of a
sad with
passing of
him
the
as a
torch moment.
with Crawford. If he went for that this soon, it robs us of a hell of a lot of fun fights at light welter.
Yeah. He could always go back down though. He's gone up and down
Mm.
before.
No, make Pacquiao go to 140. He can make 140.
That would be a bit of a slap in the face of like you've lost to Mayweather and now I dictate which
And
weight class
now,
you fight in.
oh, man.
So there was some sort of passing of the torch last night, and I got texts from casual fans um, regarding how pleased they were and how impressed they were with Vasily Lomachenko last night. So for you guys, on a scale of being thoroughly satisfied to you just gave birth to Vasily Jr., how impressed were you with Lomachenko?
Go ahead, Simon, because really all I could say is fuck you, Comcast.
Yeah, it's true. I tell you what, I wasn't overwhelmed. Um, I, it's maybe Gammy was extremely hard. Um, I don't know because he should have been getting rid of this person. Soon, early, and it felt like he was struggling to do that.
I think what we're finding out is maybe he's not going to be knocking people out and he's going to be outpointing them.
That's what I was gonna say. I don't
I
think
love it if that's what it
Lomachenko
means,
is
but
gonna really have one punch power. He's not Golovkin.
Yeah. I don't
yeah,
necessarily think it's a knock on his skill as much as it's a
no,
knock
no.
maybe on his power or his ability to, finish people or something.
Well, I think more than that, his perception of his own skill and power, because it didn't look to me like someone who thought they were putting on a class. It looked to me like someone who was trying and failing to knock someone out, but was still looking good while doing it.
Do you think that he had a concern though about his broken hand, or the hand that he had broken, that and which is why he wasn't really sitting down on anything? I mean, that first round, Lomachenko, I mean, he won the round, but he didn't throw anything with any conviction.
I did mention that to my friends while we were watching it, that it could be a rollover injury from his fight earlier in the year. I don't know.
I was watching the fight with a bunch of people, a bunch of kids were watching the fight too, and this I think it was 8-year-old, 9-year-old, just out of nowhere whips out and drops some knowledge on all the adults in the room that this is the guy that broke his arm in his last fight. I was impressed with this kid and his memory. It was really shocking though. But one guy I wasn't impressed with was Leo Santa Cruz,
Dun-dun-dun.
and I mean
Yeah,
his opponent was
Leo.
working on somebody's foundation the other day.
This is Leo. I'm never impressed. Santa Cruz. That's his nickname in my house. How did he get on this undercard? Why? Why?
Well, I mean, I don't think we should answer that question. I think the question, or I think Santa Cruz, Al Heyman's done a really terrific job, and I don't really have much criticism of what Heyman's done with his fighters, but I think Leo Santa Cruz he may have benefited from Heyman, but I think his future has been messed with the most out of any of Heyman's fighters. I think he's stunted his development significantly to the point where these pretty soft fights in his developing years has done way more harm to this guy who's pretty talented. And like Santa Cruz has a lot of really good, just natural talent, but I don't think that's getting used, and I don't think we'll ever see that fulfilled now.
Yeah, he's completely a victim of poor matchmaking.
Simon, do you think Santa Cruz could be competitive with Lee Selby?
You evil man.
So no, yes.
Well, you know what position that puts me in.
The
It's
guy
like,
who has to defend the British fighter. I always put
Lee,
you in this position.
Lee Selby's cheerleader.
yeah, this is it. Like, I have to either justify why I think Santa Cruz is actually going to do well after what we saw last night, or I then have to say why Lee Selby is going to be the person who like puts a stop to Santa Cruz's success train.
I've gotten messages from people that have told me that they disagree with your point of view about Lee Selby.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I don't know. It depends what their disagreement is. What are they saying?
He wants their
That you're
names and
wrong.
addresses.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they want to know where you live.
What do you mean by this? They say that I'm wrong in my appraisal of him stylistically, or
They
what?
think he's much better than you give him credit for.
What
Mm,
what let
see,
me just guess the time zone they're in. Are they GMT folks?
They might be.
it is possible, and you know what? I think that my appraisal of Selby's talent is always masked by the shameless techniques he uses, and because he uses these sort of really cheap strategies, and I don't mean intelligent, wily strategies. I mean outright cheat, as fine as he can get away with. It masks it masks his ability to perform from coming to the surface and showing you how good he could be. So I don't know whether he's better than I think he is, because instead all I see him do is push people's guards out the way and all sorts of like underhanded stuff. So yeah, I think that with Santa Cruz, yeah, you probably have a fight on your hands, and he could probably do it. But that doesn't discredit the fact that there's very credible people within the division that would make him look very pedestrian.
So, what about Santa Cruz versus Lomachenko? I mean, I'm really suspicious. So I was thinking they put those two fighters on the undercard clearly because they want to set up a fight between those two guys further down the road.
Mm.
But after watching last night, I don't think this is a good idea, one bit.
Why not?
Um, I think it's because Santa Cruz's defense wasn't there. Cayetano was telegraphing shots and just landing flush on the chin whenever he felt like it. And Santa Cruz did nothing about that. Made no adjustment. Just continued to walk in with his face completely exposed. And sure, he landed some big shots, but I mean, they didn't really do much damage, did they?
I mean, Santa Cruz was supposed to get an explosive knockout in this fight, right? And look amazing and get a lot of stock. That surely had to have been the plan.
Yeah, the best laid plans. There's
Yeah.
some quote about that. All right,
Hey,
that's
You,
enough about yesterday's card, though. Let's quickly, because we're running out of time, go through a couple of topics or at least one topic that we didn't talk about last week, and that is Vladimir Klitschko's defense against Bryant Jennings. Now, I think that Klitschko pulled a Carl Froch and did not take Jennings seriously. Trained for a completely different fighter, and then when Jennings showed up with all that movement, Klitschko was like, "Oh, what do I do now?" So, do you guys
but
agree
come
with
on,
that? Huh?
I don't. Um, so say let's use your premise. Say that is what happened.
Fair
If
enough.
he is the fantastic fighter that he is, how was he not able to adjust to that? Yeah, I don't care how much he didn't train or didn't train for his style. How was he not? How was he not able to do this? We've really talked up this European heavyweight circuit that he's been on and saying that they're very competitive. That these are really great fighters, and then bam, you get him in with an American, and you see what happens.
An American who won 2 rounds.
That ended the fight on his feet.
yeah, I see. With Vladimir, I think that he's just a really nice bloke that will let you have a 12 rounder if you want. And it's not just niceness; it's also conservative. I'm not going to take any risks if you're not. And if you watch his last 5, 6 fights, if someone lands clean on him with a punch that knocks him, it's like a switch goes where he's like, oh well, you've gone and done that, haven't you? I've got to get you out of here now. And then he goes for it and he just destroys them.
Which
Usually
happened
within the same
against Bubba.
round.
Yeah, but Jennings got in a couple
Exactly.
good shots.
Jennings
got
at
in a couple
no
good
point
shots.
worried him.
A couple of good shots, and you literally mean a couple, right?
By couple, I mean a couple times too, like 4.
Okay.
I think
He
in
hit
the
him 4
Pulev
times.
fight,
Pacquiao was more competitive with Mayweather.
Pulev lands a shot that visibly stuns Klitschko. His head rocks back, and he has to like his eyes go for a
Take a
second,
step
and
back.
and you see him like, okay, game time then, and he just completely changes, and there's a nastiness to his work all of a sudden, and Jennings didn't push that button.
Yeah, I don't know.
I thought Jennings was he was just really tricky. Jennings is doing a
Jennings,
lot of things that it doesn't matter if you're Vladimir Klitschko or you're Floyd Mayweather. You weren't gonna have you were gonna have a hard time with him. It reminded me of what Leonard Bundu did to Keith Thurman, where he lost every single round,
Yeah.
but he was still like just
yes,
tricky enough that Thurman couldn't do anything really. Like he couldn't look good, he couldn't hurt the guy
Mm.
because there was just nothing that he could do to really trap and set up Bundu for anything big or anything that would at least be really eye catching.
absolutely, Angela. But
Yeah.
going into that fight, you knew that. You knew that Thurman was going to win rounds. You knew that Bundu was going to keep it close and make him work hard for it.
I knew
Literally,
that,
hold
but
on.
other
Yes, hold
people
on. No, no,
didn't.
no, no. Yes, you did. But you also predicted that Jennings would be on his ass in a couple rounds. So you know what I mean? So yeah, you could go back and do a little revisionist history, but the bottom line is nobody on this podcast thought he would end the fight on his feet, and he did, and now you're
Mhm.
acting like, oh well, he just that's to be expected because blah blah blah. No,
No,
no one expected that.
Yeah.
what
I
I'm
thought he was
saying
going
is
down in
that
the fifth middle round, probably.
No one thought it was going to end the fight on his feet, and he did, and hey, that's a victory in its own.
right. But I didn't. What I'm saying is that the Jennings who I thought was going to show up, which I figured would be out in like 2 rounds, was not the guy who showed up. That was not the Jennings that I've watched and known. With Bundu against Thurman, I knew what to expect with Bundu and the kind of guy that he was.
And you got it.
Although I
And
did think that there was a really good shot at Thurman knocking him out, just because there's a big difference between world level power and then Frankie Gavin's power.
Mm.
And Jennings was surprising. He was surprisingly. I don't know if I want to
you
say
don't
that
want
he
to
was
use the word
surprisingly good.
competitive, right?
No, he
But
was definitely competitive, but he was really frisky. Like he was doing things that were frustrating Vladimir, and he was getting to him. But was it like I don't? It wasn't like he was really in those rounds. He wasn't really winning. It was like Chavez Jr. saying, "Look, I won rounds." It's like, yeah, Jennings, you did a little better than that, and you didn't get stopped. Good on you. But
Mm.
here's the thing. In the last round, when Vladimir finally turned it on, Jennings did nothing. When his corner was telling him, wait till the late rounds because Jennings or Vladimir's going to get tired, the HBO guys were saying the same thing. The late rounds, Vladimir's going to get tired, and then you can get him and catch him with something big. Jennings didn't do a single thing in that last round, and Vladimir looked like he was on his way to getting him out if that was a 15-round fight.
Yeah. I think one thing to bear in mind with the heavyweight division, the North American heavyweight scene of the last few years has been quite insular, and there haven't been a lot of occasions where a North American fighter has faced someone from anywhere else in the world that's on the world scene. So it's difficult to have a sort of yardstick of where these guys are at. If you're fighting people like Stiverne, Areola, the same like list of names that come up, it's difficult to know what that translates to from North American scene to world scene. I think Jennings proved he belonged on the world scene.
and that's what
Couldn't
I'm
cut it with
saying.
Klitschko,
He
but who
elevated
can?
the American scene in his
Yeah,
performance.
I think so. I think that it proved that he belonged on that world stage, and that the yardstick hadn't been there for a while, but it's in and it measured up.
Now, when we say world stage, this is like in super middleweight, right? Where we have just the
Yeah, you got
Vladimir
runaway
category and
champ.
then the
Yeah,
rest.
Runaway champ, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
but
okay.
like, if you'd have before watching that fight, if I'd have told you Jennings versus Fury, Jennings versus Pulev, you'd quite confidently probably put Jennings massively underdogged.
Yeah.
And now you might have it a bit close. You probably still have him as an underdog, but you wouldn't be as quick to answer, and you wouldn't be as sure when you said it.
And you're
How do
not
you
going to
guys
say
like
that he's
Jennings
going to end the
versus
fight on his
Wilder?
back. Yeah.
That's a
Sorry?
fight that can Jennings versus Wilder is a fight that could actually happen. What do you guys
Mhm.
think of that fight?
I love that fight. I absolutely love that match.
Do you think Jennings can beat Wilder?
Yeah.
Oof.
Me too.
I think anything can happen in that fight.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely one of the sentiments I feel. Let's
Well,
preview.
Wilder, is a wild card in that sense, though, that you don't. We
Stop.
haven't seen him. Well, no, we haven't seen him against stellar opposition. We've seen his best fight against Bermain Stavern. So
Who Simon really is down on.
I'm down on, yeah, no, but what I mean is
Well,
that people grow in the ring and impress you, and you could put him in and see, oh my God, look, he's been actually good the whole time, but we wouldn't know it. We've got no evidence of it yet. So that's what makes that so intriguing.
I think that's Tyson Fury is the same way. Where I think a lot of people in that Chisora fight, when Chisora was stood up past his bedtime, that's when people I
Mm.
think really start to realize, like, holy crap, Tyson Fury is actually really good for being a big, lumbering, and
Yeah.
blubbering guy who looks clumsy as hell in the ring. I think we got to jump off of this and let's preview Canelo versus James Kirkland. Now, no Ann Wolf in James Kirkland's corner, which is really unfortunate because that I mean, does this make her the most important trainer in the sport, given that her lack or her not appearing in Kirkland's corner just massively shifts the odds in Canelo's favor?
Well, trainer of the year is obviously Freddie Roach, as it always is. But outside of him, yeah, she's up there.
um, I think you could herald her as one of the most important trainers in reference to James Kirkland, not necessarily the
Yeah.
entire sport. But certainly, there's no other real fighter where you would have that big of a discrepancy just based off of a training camp change.
Oh, really? He
Hmm.
got knocked out by Nobuhiro Ishida in one round. That would be like Amir Khan leaving Virgil Hunter and training with somebody else and getting knocked out by Chris Algieri in the first round.
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing with you.
Oh, I thought you were disagreeing with me.
No, I'm saying I can't think of another trainer or another fighter that if they left their trainer, it would skew the odds so much.
So, in terms of what to expect from this bout, is
Chris
this
Algieri should have
fight?
went to Ann Wolf. Hey, good.
He needs memo.
He should call Paulie. Go out, Simon. Sorry.
I was going to say, in terms of what we should expect from this one, is it the blowout war Cinco de Mayo fight that should have been this weekend but's been delayed a week?
I I'd say it could be that, but Canelo's got a pretty low work rate. Uh, that it will be interesting to see, if he's getting landed on a ton, how he's going to react. It didn't really up his work rate in the Mayweather fight, so I don't
James Kirkland
know.
is not Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, obviously, but I'm talking about if he's just getting hit a lot. If it's going to be like an all-out war, I think I think the potential's there, but I think Canelo just doesn't have the work rate when it comes down to it to really create that big of a war. But we'll see. This
I
is a tough fight. I mean, there's something in me that just says, if Canelo gets out of the early rounds, he should kind of be okay. But I don't know. That doesn't necessarily add up.
I think Canelo is way more talented than people give him credit for, and I think it's because I don't know if it's his young looks or his red hair or something, but I think there's just this bias that people have against Canelo. Maybe that he was given so much so soon. But it's not like Chavez Jr. where Canelo doesn't earn what he gets. Canelo goes out there and he actually has shown growth in his fights, unlike Chavez Jr., who literally looks the same as he did in his 10th professional fight. Canelo's grown a lot, and you could criticize his work rate, but as soon as this fight was announced, I thought Canelo is going to light Kirkland up. It's going to look a lot like the Angulo fight. A lot of people seem to only remember when fighters knock other fighters out, and they remember those rounds where all the action was, and that's why people thought that Pacquiao had a shot at Mayweather because they were remembering all of Pacquiao's greatest hits, which is a cool video to watch. But guess what? That's not how every round in a Pacquiao fight goes.
Mm.
Kirkland has struggled with guys who can defend themselves. Carlos Molina was beating James Kirkland. Canelo is likely to go in there, and I think it's going to look just like um, the Angulo fight. I
You
think,
think it's going to be that one-sided?
yeah.
Wow.
I don't think Kirkland can outbox Canelo. And what
Right.
Canelo is he's actually, he's not a bad boxer.
He
He
isn't.
has solid footwork. He puts his combinations together really well, like as if he was trained by Marquez. And I know some people don't like that. Watch the fights. Canelo puts his combinations together, with some of the best in the sport. Now he also needs to have his feet planted and all that stuff, but at least Kirkland's not a mover, so that's not going to be a big problem
Mm.
for him.
No, I rate this one as being possibly very fan friendly.
Possibly. Do they have
Yeah.
Steve
No, it will be
Smoger
fan friendly.
refereeing? Because
Yeah.
last time Smoger refereed a Kirkland fight, somebody almost died.
Well,
That poor
that's
boy.
right up certain people's alleys.
That's what people are expecting from the Mayweather Pacquiao fight for some
Mm.
reason. Um, but this does have potential, and if Canelo
Yeah,
doesn't light Kirkland up, it really does have potential to be the fight of the year. Canelo has a good chin.
I gotta rate Kirkland above Angulo though. I, the only
Well,
reason
how
people
long has it been
hold on,
since you've seen him?
but just give me a second. Oh wow, but give me a second here.
Go
The
ahead.
reason people were so high on Angulo, right, going into the Canelo fight, and this harpens back to the point that you just made about highlight reels. What they remembered were 2 rounds from a fight with Islande Lara. What people remembered was Angulo putting Lara on his ass twice. They remembered the highlight reel of that fight. They didn't remember Angulo getting his ass beat, for the remainder of that fight. They
For
actually
him
didn't
quitting.
even recall that he was stopped in that fight. Like,
No, he wasn't stopped. He quit.
oh, you know what I mean? Like, he got so much credit for that fight. It was insane. So people had this really inflated view of who Angulo was going into that fight. So I guess the bottom line point that I'm trying to make here is that Kirkland is a much better fighter than Angulo. So I have a hard time thinking it's going to be as one-sided.
I agree. I think I agree that I sound crazy,
Cool.
but before the Angulo fight, I told everybody Angulo has never
You
beaten
sure did.
a
Yeah.
top opponent who's been rated highly. He's never done that. And the same thing with Lara. Lara's never came to fight and beaten. Like he's actually went in there and whooped a fighter that's at the world level. And there's no way he's going to beat Canelo. And yeah, it was a horrible style matchup for him and Canelo. I mean, I'll never watch that fight again. But I did say, there's no way Lara's going to beat Canelo. Same thing with Trout. Those, I firmly believe that Canelo's an elite talent in the sport. And I've thought that very early on in Canelo's career, just some of the intangibles that he has. And Kirkland, you know, I love the guy. He's entertaining as hell, but I think he's a step below Canelo. Now, on the subject of step belows, we have like a bunch of fights to run through. So let's go over that CBS card. Um, Omar Figueroa versus Ricky Burns, Jamie McDonnell versus Tomoki Kameda. Why are these fights worth watching?
Um,
Simon, you got two British fighters, so please.
I'll take them then. So with the Ricky Burns fight, his opponent's at a new weight officially, and there's always an element of doubt with that. And Ricky Burns, we've seen him look excellent in the past, but he has been faded of late. So it's that doubt. He's the underdog, but there's the uncertainties of will he look good at the new weight, and will the old Burns show his head? And they're the things that you're going to be hoping for if you're a Burns fan. So it's got the potential to be very one-sided, and it's got the potential to be entertaining, and we'll see on the night. Then with the second fight, you think that there's an upset in the water, don't you?
Absolutely. Jamie, if you want to take a risk, you would bet on Jamie McDonnell to upset Tomoki Kameda.
Mm.
But
I
Simon, you
don't.
don't agree.
I don't see it, but I don't disagree strongly either. You're not mad for suggesting it, but I'd
Well,
back the bet. I'd back the odds at the minute.
so Jason, you've seen Tomoki Kameda. Why is this guy any good?
What have I seen him? Who did I see him fight?
You saw
You
him
went
fight
out on a
the
limb there.
the Thai guy on Showtime on the Canelo undercard. You saw him fight. He headlined a card in
Oh,
the summer on
okay,
Showtime.
yeah. I have seen him fight. Okay. Um, yep, I guess there goes my viewpoint on it.
Okay, well, Tomoki Kameda scored I think it was a 6 round body shot stoppage, and that's what really launched him here in America. What got people to notice him? Vicious body shot stoppage over a Thai guy who was winning the fight on the cards at that point. Then his
Mm.
fight with I forgot his name. I think it might have been Alejandro Hernandez. Um, Kameda won like a majority or a split decision. And so this is the guy that we're saying is going to beat Jamie McDonnell, who, Simon, who is Jamie McDonnell?
Well, that's the other question as well. You make great points about Kameda, but Jamie McDonnell doesn't have a who's who list of wins either.
But he also hasn't lost in almost 8 years.
Yeah, that's true. He's had a brilliant career and has probably exceeded all expectations of where his cap was. His last two opponents been strong-ish, but he's never been in there with someone super high rated within the division. And I know you're saying that Kameda's built on a house of sand, but to an extent, so's McDonnell.
Well, McDonnell does have a win over Stu Hall, and Hall is a former champion. He beat this 52-2 Thai guy, whose name I'm not even going to try to pronounce.
Tepting Daeng.
There you go. You must have been practicing.
Yeah.
And Kameda stopped this guy late in the fight. The thing, though, about Kameda that I really like is that this guy gets stronger as the fights go on. And that's what you want to see in a fighter who doesn't necessarily always outbox his opponents. Because McDonnell is not the best boxer. I mean, if we want to put it bluntly, he'll get outboxed at at bantamweight by all of the good boxers in the division, so to speak. But he gets stronger as the fights go on, and I think he's going to do enough work where he will actually get rounds. The cool thing, though, about this fight, I guess, is that this is going to be a really entertaining fight. Kameda likes to fight on the inside. McDonnell has no problem with that. Somebody will go down in this fight. And I think there's just a really strong opportunity here for McDonnell to upset Kameda. Kameda isn't... I mean, I'm watching both fighters, and what I've seen, the eye test, McDonnell I rate a little higher than Kameda. Anyway, we have... Let me count right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 prospects that are in action, and these are all 5 that we are highly, or we rate highly. Callum Smith, super middleweight. Anthony Joshua, heavyweight. Luke Campbell, lightweight. Frankie Gomez, super lightweight. Jojo Diaz, super bantamweight. So let's go quickly through them, why you should make sure you do what you can to tune in and catch these fights. So let's start with Callum.
So it's an easy sell with these. Callum, AJ, and Campbell are all going to do the business, and they're going to look stunning doing it, and they're all on the same card. So why wouldn't you catch that?
And why wouldn't you want to see Luke Campbell? The lightweight division is in flux right now. We don't know where it's going. Mickey Bay is, MIA. We can't find him. We put his picture on milk cartons. Miguel Vasquez, whatever happened to him? Oh yeah, he fought on an untelevised undercard a few weeks ago. Ray Beltran can't. I mean, I don't know what he's doing. He's not making weight though. So the lightweight division is wide open, and you know who's there to fill that void? How about a super prospect with the gold medal, with a built-in fan base that looks like a combination of Vasily Lomachenko and Oscar De La Hoya? That's Luke Campbell. The guy is, I mean, I don't want to say he's amazing, but I think he's super talented, and this is a guy you want to catch. You want to get on this train now because it's leaving soon, off to the good level.
He's not just going to do the business at lightweight. He's big for the weight. This is someone who is going to make statements in, I wouldn't be surprised if years from now he's bossing around welterweight. Yeah.
Yep. And
so people were saying in the wake of Mayweather Pacquiao, well, that's it for boxing now. Who can replace these guys? Well, here's someone who might be up to it.
I mean, this is 5 guys actually we're about to go through that, might be up to the task. What about Callum Smith? He's a super middleweight, which is the same division that Andre Ward, Carl Froch, George Groves, these guys all fight at.
See, I think Callum Smith's either not going to be able to, he's not going to either secure fights with those guys or the ones he'll beat. But I think that he's one that, do you think potentially light heavyweight in the future?
Absolutely. Callum is 6'4", which is massive for super middleweight. And at some point, the real fight for him could be Sergey Kovalev.
Yeah.
Kovalev on his last leg when he's, beating Stevenson and whoever else. Callum could be the one to do him in. He's
Hmm.
just a devastating body puncher, too, if you've never seen him.
Yeah, he's not getting Froch probably ever. Ward is going to be out of the division before he's ever interested in a fight with Callum Smith.
Well, he's
Groves,
got about 2 more fights left at this
yeah,
point, before he's
you know,
100.
Groves, I don't think does very well against Callum Smith. And
Groves will lose to Callum Smith tomorrow.
yeah, and I think at super middle, his only option is set his alarm clock for when Golovkin finally shows up. But
That would be a
the
great fight.
yeah,
Never put those two
but
together.
the more proactive approach would be to start hunting names in light heavy. And as you say, he's tall enough. He's got the frame for it. He'd do it easy.
Maybe he'll wait. He'll go. A couple of years from now, he can move to light heavyweight and try Hopkins.
Hmm.
Come on, guys. That was supposed to be way funnier.
I like
Hopkins is like 50 years old.
I
I
gave
really
you my courtesy laugh.
the courtesy, LOL. Uh, I like the future that you just posited there, where Kovalev beats Stevenson. I enjoyed that.
Well, everybody enjoyed that. Who doesn't want? I mean, actually, you know what? Black people
Not in
don't
light
want.
of Kovalev's recent tweets. Not
Yeah.
everybody.
Did you like his fabricated apology?
Yeah, main events did a good job.
Yeah, it smelt of Duva that.
So, Anthony Joshua, we talk about Joshua, I think every episode. I think we even talked about him during the Mayweather Pacquiao exclusive podcast. But he's our favorite heavyweight prospect. The dude he's ridiculous. He's tall. He's looks like a little baby Vladimir that's only a few inches shorter. And if you don't think that Anthony
That's the only
Joshua is the
difference.
future of the heavyweight division, you can't be helped. Frankie Gomez, super lightweight prospect. This guy could be cut from the same cloth as like a Matisse, but I think he's a little more refined than Matisse, but there's still a lot of Matisse there. If you catch my drift. He's gonna fight Humberto Soto, and this should be a war if it goes the way we think it's gonna go.
Soto's
And
a tough cookie.
yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say next. Is that, but don't expect Gomez to just walk through this guy and have a sort of a prospect showcase.
Is it
Soto is
too
gonna make him
early
work.
for him? Is it too early for him, or do you think Soto's at a point where he's kind of ripe for the picking for this type of a prospect who's kind of more a super prospect? What do you think?
It's tough. I think that it highlights yet again what a horribly difficult ride, North American prospects get put through, because
Yeah, this is
Right.
the point here.
you get 5 to 10 training fights, and
Yeah.
then you better start proving yourself against like literally the most elite of fighters. Because if this was someone who was British and at the same point in their career, you're not putting him in with Soto that quickly.
No, you're putting him in with Sam Eganton.
Yeah, exactly.
Nah, no, you don't. Uh, you put
Well,
him
in
against Frankie
hindsight, no,
Devin.
you don't.
In
But
hindsight, maybe you wouldn't have, but
No,
yeah, they get a rough time, don't they?
yeah, they totally do. It's
And I
sink or
think-
swim.
yeah, and I think Gomez it's blood coming from my nose. All right, I think this is a good match for
Moving
Gomez
along.
because I think he's at the perfect point where he needs to be tested, and it's like the wrong time if you're looking for a showcase fight, because it's unless Gomez is a legit like top tier talent, he will get past Soto with ease. But I think this is this is like he's ready for those tough fights now that really get him ready. Like this is essentially what Salido was for Lomachenko.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And also on that same card, Jojo Diaz, super bantamweight prospect who hasn't
I
looked
loved this kid. I
hasn't
loved
looked
him.
great lately, but
Yeah.
he's still really talented.
I'm really hoping for him to pull it together because I just think he's got a great personality on top of on top of his, really good boxing skills. But he's shown some fundamental lapses in defense and fundamental inability to change a game plan mid-fight, which has worried me that when he moves on things are going to get really rough really quick. Like Simon was just saying, once you get that big jump that he's going
But
to have to take.
fortunately, he's the right side of that big jump now, and he's got a softie still.
Yes, right. So keep an eye out for him. But I really hope to I really hope to see better things from him because he was really one of my guys for a while, and I've kind of felt a little down on him recently.
Yeah, and the other side of this jump for Diaz is it's not pretty. He's in super
No,
bantamweight.
it's the division of
The
death.
top tier super bantamweight guys, they don't play around.
Leo Santa
There's
Cruz arguably ran away from this division. It was too stacked.
All right. Last but not least, not a prospect by any stretch of the imagination. We're going to talk about journeyman turned legitimate contender Sam Eggington. Simon, what do you want to tell us about Sam Eggington?
So yeah, I think we've touched on him before, but if it's your first time listening to us, and you'll have no idea who Eggington is, in all likelihood, then Eggington's the guy who wanted to be a prospect, thought that he'd be a sort of journeyman and just earn a little bit of money getting beaten up by legitimate prospects. Been in a couple fights recently where he's gone in to be fodder for a prospect and has totally upset them. And it's not the first time, it's a few times on the bounce. Most recently, he went in with undefeated prospect Shane Singleton and knocked him out. So I feel like they've realised the appeal that he's having and that there's legitimate interest in him and his story. So for the first time, he's the favourite in probably 7-8 fights now. So yeah, they put him in with Lamptey for this coming Saturday, and Lamptey's rated far lower. But I feel like now they've realised, you know what? If we promote this guy right and give him the chance to build a fan base, he could do some interesting stuff in the weight class as his own attraction.
Right, just a great story. I mean, this is like something out of a movie. It's like, I came into boxing to just, be the guy, be a punching bag for, the actual good fighters. And I just discovered I'm actually really good, and now I'm fighting for a world title. Like HBO would run wild with that. They do 24/7 episode plus a 2 days on
This is it. And how pissed would you be to be Bradley Skeet and you look at BoxRec and realise that within the UK, Sam Eggington's rated higher than you?
Is that for real?
Yeah, for real.
Wow.
That's actually like, because I mean, at least.
Well, it makes
Bradley
sense
Skeet
because
looks like
they're
a
putting
spoon,
him in
so.
against people who are kind of moving up in the ranks, right? So if he's knocking off people who are already moving up in the ranks,
he's stealing their massive points because it's all maths
right.
based within BoxRec.
Exactly. Yeah,
He's
so it makes
totally-
sense. Yeah.
This is
He's
unbelievable.
like farming massive XP. He's
Yeah.
power leveling because he's rated 4th in the UK now with BoxRec.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Would you favor Sam Eggington over Victor Ortiz?
Ooh.
Victor Ortiz is right below him.
Ooh.
Like
I'm
Sam
tempted.
Eggington is rated higher than Victor Ortiz.
Wow. But hey, what's Ortiz done recently?
Well, this is it. And Sam Eggington's the savage. He can get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah, so okay. All right.
Trim this.
Well, we have reached the end of our list of things to talk about. And we don't ever go off the list because bad things happen when we do. Like, not funny jokes about, well, Simon will tell you. You should message him.
Well, the entire podcast is scripted for everybody who doesn't know. We're actually just reading lines.
And they're all to make me look better.
Angelo writes out our opinions for us and emails them to us the day before.
There are people out there that would probably say like, "Oh yeah, I think that totally sounds like something he would do." This is the guy with all that time on his hands.
He's all the mods as well.
Now,
Anyways.
anybody who was there last night knows that damn well that that's not true. All right, thanks for listening. We'll be back next week to go over and recap the Canelo fight, in which he will stop James Kirkland, Omar Figueroa knocking out Ricky Burns, Jamie McDonnell upsetting Kameda, and prospects. And maybe next week we'll touch on the now outdated issue of Kovalev defending against Mohammedi. And hey, an announcement. Yesterday was a perfect day to announce that Timothy Bradley is going to be fighting Jesse Vargas. So a lot of good
Watch
things
out.
happened yesterday.
Watch out, Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah, Bradley's coming back for you. All right, till next time. Thanks for listening.
Look, I be riding through my old hood, but I'm